Hello everybody, how is it going? And welcome to episode 8 sounds like hate, of the Cajun Guitar Gear Podcast. We have got some pretty interesting stuff on the docket today. We've got some interesting reverb pedal to check out there. We have a new guitar from Sully Guitars. We have a new bass from Aristides. And we are going to be talking about my favorite albums of 2023. So let's jump right in and check out the Verbs pedal from Poly. Naming of this pedal is very weird. I just called it Verbs. This is from Poly. I actually didn't hear or know about these guys until this week because, of course, my favorite YouTubers, Mr. Mike Nielsen and Leon Todd, did demos of this pedal, and this pedal is actually really cool. What it is they take IRs, captures, IRs, I'm using so much improper English, I am sorry, they're taking IR captures of specific places, and they're putting them in the pedal. Now, I have a Mic DSP plugin that uses reverb IR, so the concept is not new to me, but I think it's one of the first times it's been put into a pedal, and it's really cool. So you have some different places in here, and you can also load your own IRs in here too. So you have Pool of the Black Star, Cornucopia Caves, Santa Lucia Basilica, Echo Plates, Analog Devices, Irregular Verbs, and you have Adverbs, and say Meishowi, a Neolithic monument built around 2800 BC. And the first batch of it is sold out. Surprise, surprise. Everything we look at pretty much sells out on here. You're looking at about $400 for this pedal, which it's pricey, but it does a very good job and it's really cool. So there's actually no knobs on it. So it kind of uses like a touch pressure system on it. So if you touch it, it goes up and it can go down, and you kind of like touch it. And there's different presets in it. This pedal is actually really awesome. So let's hear some stuff. Let's do Mike's first. We'll hear a little bit from Mike. And as you can see on the screen right now, he has the different lights that are right here. He basically touched it for that. So let's hear what this pedal sounds like. This is going to be Cornucopia Caves. Now let's just jump over to Mr. Leon Todd with his little intro riff. So let's run down the different effects on here. I'm just going to kind of jump over to each one. Is Pool of the Black Star, Cornucopia, St. Lucia, etc., etc. And I'm going to let Leon play it for you so you can hear it. Another thing I missed, what Leon's doing right now, if you hold, what button is that? If you hold button A on the pedal, you can make it crescendo. Man, those echo plates sound so damn good. Holy shit. This is the Raindrops preset right here. I don't want to waste all of your time on this pedal per se, listening to it, so we need to kind of move on. But this pedal actually sounds really great. It reminds me a lot of the effects that are in the Axe effects. So this sounds like it's combining a lot of different things into one little pedal. I think it sounds pretty damn good. Let me know what you think about the polyverb in the comments down below. All right, moving on to our new guitars going to be covering. So Sully, hailing from, they launched a brand new guitar. It's called the Astro. It actually launched the same exact day as the Soldano Astro. So it kind of got, I don't say buried, but it kind of got caught up in the wave of the Astro. And it's total coincidence that it's the same exact name. What this guitar is based on is it's kind of like a tribute to the Brian May guitar. I don't even remember the name of his red guitar. You know what I'm talking about? Brian May's guitar. Anyway, this is kind of like a tribute to it. A lot of things are different on it. It has, obviously it's red, but it has dual humbuckers on it. The coolest thing about this is it has an arm bevel on it, which is amazing for it. The horns are kind of cut back a lot, so you get a lot of upper fret access. This thing actually looks pretty slamming. Like, I'm not usually one who plays single cut, even though this is technically not a single cut. The body on it is kind of bigger. It's not so much like a super strat. This thing is awesome. It has a roasted maple neck on it. This is through his custom shop, so you're looking, prices begin at $26.50, which he's making it in the US, so he's making it himself. So you're gonna get a good guitar, and that's why that cost is what it is. What pickups do this thing have? Neck construction. I think you can kind of pick. I mean, it's 25.5-inch scale. You got 24 stainless frets. You can do hip shot, Tune-o-matic, or Floyd. I think you can kind of pick any of his pickups that go in it. It is only available through his custom shop. His Conspiracy series is like his import models. It may be available in 2024. That's what I'm reading right now on the site. So let's jump over. I'm going to let you guys hear this. So Mr. Perfecto da Casta, what he did was he actually took this guitar and he's doing a demo with it, but he's doing it with the Soldano Astro. So it's like Astro and Astro. So I'm going to let you hear it a little bit. I kind of wanted to let you guys like hear it and see it. All right, you guys get the idea. It sounds really cool. I mean, it's kind of hard to discern exactly what is the guitar that's sounding and what is the amp, but that's the best thing I could find because I wanted to kind of show you what it sounded like. So, if you want yourself an Astro Sully, go order one because they're great guitars and you're gonna love it. And you can customize it however you want. And he's gonna send you updates because John, the guy who owns Sully, he's an upstanding dude. Now, let's move on to some more new guitar news, but we're actually going to be covering bass. Yes, I know. Some of you guys are shocked. Bass on here? Yes. So, Aristides, the fine makers of the plastic guitars, aka Arium, they are coming out with some new basses. They've had basses for a while, but they only had a 050, but they're completely like revamping and redoing their bass line, and they are coming out with multi-scale basses. The top string is going to be a 36, and it is going to be using Nordstring audio pickups in series, and it's going to have the Dark Glass X7 Ultra built right into it, which is really awesome because you kind of have everything you could ever need right there in the bass to get your perfect bass tone. And the one thing I want to stress with this is Aristides basses are some of the best recording basses out there, and I'm not even joking. A couple years ago, I mixed the Monuments track for Nail the Mix, and Adam, he was a bassist at the time. 050, oh my god, that thing sounded so good, and it was so easy to mix. It sounded so good. So right now it is in a prototype stage. This is actually it's called an S/B prototype, so it's a 5-string, and I'm just gonna kind of give you some ideas of what it sounds like. And this is Mr. C. Bessel, I think this is how you say his name. Please forgive me if I get that wrong. He's gonna be checking out. We're gonna watch some other stuff on this too. go to our next little sound bite. This one is more of clean. And now let's listen to when Mr. Seagull, did I pronounce that right? I did not pronounce that right. Seabustle. He's doing it for one of his, it's a playthrough. I hope these sound clips give you an idea of kind of what it sounds like. Aristides, for those who don't know, they're out of the Netherlands, and they make all of their stuff out of Arium, which is like this patented. Essentially, it's plastic, but I say that it's a good thing, right? Because I've owned them before, and they were amazing guitars. You know, most of the time when people say plastic, they're like, oh, that's gross. No, they're not. They're really amazing guitars, and they sound really great, and everything they make is fantastic. They have headless guitars they just launched. They have multi-scale guitars. They pretty much have everything you could ever want. And I'm really excited that they're redoing the basses. Like I said, that 050 was one of the best recording basses ever. I think I covered this earlier, but the top string on here is going to be a 36. Some people were a little upset that it wasn't 37 because I know Dingwalls or 37, but 36 inches is plenty because the bass that I have a Schecter Stiletto. That one's at 35. This one is multi-scale and it's at 36. So you can still get the strings that you want to get, and you don't have to go to like insane places to get strings because of string length. So I'm really excited about these Aristides basses. And if you want to order one, they're kind of in the, I don't know if they're in the pre-order stage, but definitely email Aristides Guitars. Email them on their website, and they can get you straight away. Or if you go to the Facebook group, it's Arium Addicts. That is a Facebook group. You can find them there if you have questions or want to see anything. So definitely go check those out there. Now, for the main event of the podcast, we are going to be checking out my top albums of 2023. So I do things differently when it comes to albums. A lot of people will just put out their top 10 albums and stuff like that. I did that a couple years ago. Like, I kind of like found all of albums that came out and I graded them, and I gave some of them Fs, and I said that they were bad. And that pissed off my Facebook list so much. I had so many people who were like mad. They were like, dude, you're wrong. This sounds good. I don't know what you're talking about. And since I got so much blowback from that, I learned that you're not allowed to criticize music. You're only allowed to like praise it. You can't really criticize it. And I found that out too because I used to do album reviews. I did album reviews for a while and I really liked it, but it got no views. No one really cared about it. And the only reason I like got people to get views is if I made them mad, because I could review the Slipknot album and the Tool album, both which were bad. And I kind of like alluded to that, and like people watched it, but they downloaded it, but it was interaction. So thank you guys. Anyway, I want to talk about my top albums. Sorry, I kind of went off on a rant there. And the way I do albums is this is just everything that came out this year that I liked. I don't really have a top album of the year. I have albums that I liked more than others, that I listened to more than others per se, but I don't like doing a top 10 album list anymore because I find it's kind of stupid because there's so much good stuff. It's like I'm not just gonna like limit it. I want to kind of share everything. So here we go. And by the way, before we even start, don't really pay attention to the order. The order is not important. I mean, I put some of the ones that I liked a little bit more, that I listened to a lot more, I kept coming back to at the top. But the order is not really indicative of how I think of them, okay? Because I just kind of threw them on there because I want to go down and I want to talk about them. So the first one on the list, Veil of Maya Mother. This album is so good. I listened to the singles a lot before it came out. I'm also kind of sad. They had an album that was supposed to come out before this, but they ended up scrapping it because they had an issue with the producer they were working with. But this album is fantastic. It's good from front to back. All the songs on it are so good. I kind of don't have a bad thing to say about it. It's very, very good. I don't know if you can tell, like, I like a lot of metal and gent and metalcore. That's just kind of like where I live. Humanity's Last Breath, Ashen. So this is like Thal type music, which it's like gent, but it's kind of like on steroids. Not gent on steroids, but it's a whole different thing. So Humanity's Last Breath and Vildiacta, they're kind of the same band. It's all the same people. So this album has a lot of the same people that are in Vildiacta. I like this album a lot. I like it a lot better than their last one. I find their last album kind of sounded like a copy of Vildiacta's album, but I like this one so much more. I constantly kept coming back to it. It's very, very, very good. I love it. I love it a lot. Buster Odenheim is the guy who's in this, and he does a great job writing. His great job mixing. And this album was absolutely great. He's also in another album we're gonna talk about down here. The dude's in so many different bands. And then we have Periphery 5. Gent is not a genre. I actually bought 2 different vinyls for this one. So I have the yellow vinyl and I have the red vinyl. So I guess you could kind of say this would be my top album if I had to pick one, since I bought 2 different vinyls of it. This album is really good. The only thing I didn't really like about it is a lot of the interludes after the songs. I find they kind of drug on too long. So like I end up just skipping them when I'm listening to it, because they kind of go on so long. I find they did the best transition wise on like P1 and P2. That was the best. I do love those little transitions after songs. I just find it went on. I like the electronic song that's on here. A lot of people don't. They just find it's kind of random. It is kind of different from a lot of the songs that are on here, but that was one of my favorites. So P5 was definitely one of my top albums of the year. Very good. Dying Wish, Path to Your Grave. These guys are female fronted. Whether that matters for anything, I'm just adding context. And I love this album. Is so good. It's one of the few bands that I found that is making that return to that early 2000s to 2010 metalcore, kind of like when I was growing up. That when I got into metalcore, like for example, like the middle As I Lay Dying albums, and As Daylight Dies and End of Heartache, those type of albums. This album is so great. It's so good. I love it. I could have used a little bit more guitar work in it. I could have used a little bit more lead lines in it to completely flesh it out and make it like absolutely over the top legendary, but it's still very good. I love this album a lot. Next up is Sentinels in Limbo. This is actually an EP, and this album is very interesting because Sentinels, they're from New Jersey, and they lost their singer recently, but they got a new one, and they put this out. Man, this stuff is so good. So basically, if you're a fan of The Contortionists, when they had Jonathan as their lead singer, kind of like what Exoplanet and stuff like that, this is for you, because a lot of stuff reminds me of Exoplanet. There's actually like no cleans in it at all. It's just straight growls. It's very good. They have like 3 new songs with the singer and some rest of instrumentals, but it's very good. Another banger we have is August Burns Red, Death Below. This is one of my favorite albums from them in recent years. I pretty much like a lot of August Burns Red. Now, I am not a super diehard fan of theirs, but I do like them a lot. And this album, it was one of their more progressive albums, I would have to say. So it's still metalcore, but they kind of like brought the tempo down in certain spots. They kind of explore a lot more places. This album's really good. It came out early in the year, and it kind of got a little lost for me, but I haven't revisited it lately, and it's very good. Now this is a new one to me. Set to Stun, Valkyrie 1. I recently just discovered these guys like a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. It's been very recently. And I added them on this list because if you like Coheed and Cambria, but you want Coheed and Cambria that's actually good, you need to check this out, which that might be kind of shocking to some of you. I'm not the biggest Coheed fan, but this kind of takes that proggy element of them, and it kind of like throws like easycore and pop punk in it. It has a lot going on, but it's such a wild ride, and it's so good. I think it's a concept album too. It's very good. So if you like kind of that type of crazy stuff, you definitely need to check that out. Now, Invent Animate Heaven. This song won the top album in r/metalcore, and rightfully so. It's a very good album. They also had to replace their singer, and this album is an absolute banger. It's very good. I don't think it has a bad song on it from back to front. It's really good. It brings the tempo up. It brings the tempo back down. It has some kind of more mellowy songs on there. It's a very balanced album. It's very good. I've been obsessed with these next 2 albums, by the way, coming up. So Night Rider, we have the Night Rider debut album. It's their self-titled album. If you like synthwave, these next 2 albums, if you like synthwave and gent, these albums are 100% for you. So it's pretty much gent, but it has like synths going on in the background, and it has like an 80s vibe to it. Man, it's so good. If you listen to both albums back to back, it's very, very good. This album is a little bit more mellow. I kind of would have liked it if they kind of They've had a little bit more active choruses sometimes, and some of the tempos were a little bit more upbeat, kind of a little bit more variety than it would have been like 100% over the top masterpiece. But as we go on, you're gonna see I'm gonna give you things that I thought each album's could have done a little bit better, but this album is still very, very, very good. Now, Torrential Rain, Digital Dreams. I discovered these guys because on my Spotify mix, like I have like a daily mix. It like mixes stuff up of like stuff you listen to and other stuff that you might like. They popped up on there because this is their first album. They've had a bunch of singles. This is their first full album, and I really liked all the songs that I heard from them. Man, this album is so good. It's so good. So it has synths in it and it has djent, but it's a little bit more metalcore-ish than what Knight Rider is. But you still have these synths in there. You have like growls every once in a while. You have a lot of clean singing. It kind of reminds me if you took the Howard era of Killswitch Engage, right? That type of like singing about heartache and love and stuff. You take that and you mash a djent band on top of that, and then you throw synths on top of that. That's kind of what they remind me of. They're very, very, very good. Now, if you like video games, you're going to like the next album is Killstreak Deathmatch. They're kind of like deathcore-ish. They write about video games. So, like, they have one that's called 360 No Scope. Their albums are all about video games, and it's really cool. So, if you like video games and you like metal, definitely check them out. I think I need to stop using that term metal because it's such a broad term because it could literally mean everyone from AC/DC to, like, cattle decapitation. Moving on. Anyway, the next one, the Callous Dow Boys, which are very much better than the Dallas Cowboys. The Callous Dow Boys, got some miles upon the Callous Dow Boys. This is an EP that they put out, which I think they were kind of like riding the wave of their popularity because they got popular really recently. They're kind of like mathcore, so it's like middlecore, but they change tempo a lot and stuff like that. So think of like Ocean's 8 Alaska with more like metalcore mixed in, and this is what you have. They're kind of a little silly too. So that is the mix of things that you're getting. It's a very good album. It's very cool. And then they're actually like their full-length album that came out before this is really very good too. Next up is going to be Blood Red Hourglass, How's the Heart. If you like In Flames and if you like Melodeath, check out Blood Red Hourglass. A lot of their stuff is great. I don't say they're an In Flames clone, but they're very much in that vein. This album is very good. I need to spin it a couple more times. I listened to it a few times, but it's very good. And I listened to a bunch of the singles too as they came out. And I was actually kind of shocked. I didn't know they would come out with a full length. I'm going to put it on here because it's very good. Moving on to Throne, On the Verge. This is Buster Odenheimlim's van. Also his other band. He's like in 3. This is actually his biggest band, believe it or not. Of the 3 I named, Early Voljekta, Humanity's Last Breath. Throne is his biggest one. They're metalcore, but they're kind of like more straight ahead metalcore. And it's kind of more to the hardcore-ish side, sort of. It's very good. Throne's awesome. I'm trying to describe them. They're kind of like an offshoot of metalcore. You just have to listen to it. They're very good. If I'd be better at describing it, subgenres, then I could actually describe it to you. We're going to another EP. We're going to have Driveways Epilogues 2. Driveways was their album last year. It was one of my favorite albums that came out. They're kind of like, they're pop punk and they're kind of easycore in the same kind of way, but they kind of have their own like style of like singing and doing things. They use synths too. They're very good. Like Driveways is the type of album that like you could listen to with like your girlfriend or your wife who only listens to like Adele and Taylor Swift and all those other boring artists like that. This is a good bridge for that because they don't really scream a whole lot, and she'll like she, your partner, they'll like that type of stuff. Moving right along to another, we have a full length here. Beartooth, The Surface. Now, this album is not as good as that album with the yellow cover. I think that was Disease. I think that was the name of that album. That album is like a classic. That album's really good. This one's kind of a step down from that. A lot of people had problems with this album because there's one part where the lead singer was like, hit him with the riff. A lot of people didn't like that. I thought this album was okay. Like, if I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5, so like a C or a high C+. I liked it, and I thought it was great. A lot of other people had problems with it. Moving right along to kind of a really good album that kind of coming in under the radar, kind of a little bit underrated would be Harm's Way, Common Suffering. This album is great. Like, this album kind of reminds me of Throne, so they're kind of in that same vein. You have it's pretty much banger after banger after banger on this one. It's very good. If you've never listened to them before, it may take a little while to get used to them. They're not anything like Humanity's Last Breath or anything, but the vocals may kind of take a little while for you to get used to. Like, I mean, it's normal screams, but it's done in a particular way. You'll see what I mean. But this album is actually great. Now, Terminia Soul Elegy. So this album is a collaboration between Andy from Monuments. He's a singer. And Mr. Nick Nocturnal, he's a YouTuber, the guy who would cover metal songs before they would even come out. That's kind of how he rose to prominence. Now he has his own metal awards show, and he does a podcast. This is a collaboration between them, and it's actually really good for being YouTube music. And this is why I say YouTube music, because you have two types of people. You have people who are in bands who make music, who do YouTube sometimes, and then you have people who are primarily on YouTube, that's their main thing, and then they make music. It's very rare that you'll find someone who's like a full-time YouTuber who does YouTube a lot, whose music is like really good and you actually want to listen to. It's weird. So this is kind of like that perfect strike between them. It's kind of like... It's gent, but it's kind of like, not periphery gent, but it's kind of like new school gent, if that makes any sense. It's kind of more popular gent. I guess popular gent is the word I'm looking for. That's kind of like what it is. It's actually really good. So this album kind of surprised me that I even put on there. Sleeping with Sirens, Complete Collapse. This is metalcore, but this kind of comes out of that 2010s metalcore. It's kind of like when I quit following all those bands, like when metalcore kind of changed and it went more popular. This is kind of where it comes out of. Good thing I like about this album is they have some acoustic songs that they do, and they're kind of better than the normal songs. They did acoustic versions of songs that are on here, and they're better than the actual, like, metalized songs. They have a lot of guest singers in here. I really like this album. The vocalist sings kind of high, kind of like Spencer or Getty from Rush, in that kind of, like, vein. So if that's not your thing, I would avoid this, but it's actually really good. Guilt Trip. Severance. This album is good. It's kind of in the, again, it's in that same kind of vein as Throne. It's kind of like, it's metal, but it's kind of like straight ahead metal, if that makes any sense. A lot of good stuff on here. This album keeps coming up in my mixes, and it's really, really good. I like it a lot. So, Tesseract, War of Being. This is their best album in a very long time. I think it's their best album. I can't think. It was a white album cover with, when Ash was a singer. I think it was their second album. I cannot think of the name of it. Put it in the comments down below. I can't think of the name of it. This is their best album since then, because a lot of the albums that came back since Dan came back in the band, they have not done it for me. I found them kind of boring. This album is really good. I like it a lot. I may take some heat for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The master on this album made me very mad because it's so super low. It's lower than literally everything else. I understand if you don't want to smash stuff to bits. I get that, but the volume on it is like way too low. So anytime I would listen to it like in my truck or at the gym or anything, I'd have to turn it up, and it just kind of annoyed me. So I kind of avoided it, which might rub some people the wrong way, but this album's actually very good. If you're into like prog gent, if you're into that, this is definitely a very good album. They even did a video game with it. This is kind of like Tesseract's like return to like making a good album, which this album is very good, and I do like it. Just the whole mastering thing on it kind of threw me for a loop. And you do have some songs on it that are like softer. You just kind of gotta. I had to kind of be in the right mood for it, and I just haven't really found it because I've got to be at the gym and listen to this. I'm like, it's not doing it for me, bro. But this album is very good. It's crafted very well, and like they have an 11-minute song on it, and it doesn't really get boring. So that's how you know that they crafted it really well. Slyosis, A Sign of Things to Come. Slyosis, the lead singer guitarist in here is Josh Middleton. Yes, his name is Josh Middleton. I could not think of his name. He was in Architects, and he ended up leaving Architects. Architects is a really big UK metalcore band, which I never really got into them. I like a few of their albums, like All Gods Abandon Us. That album is great, but I'm not really into their new stuff. The new single they came out with was actually good because they actually kind of went back to metalcore. Anyway, sorry. This album is really good, but I find some of it was just a little bit lacking. Like, I listen to it, but I don't actively find myself coming back to it. It's very good, but it just... With all of the stuff that came out this year, it kind of got buried for me a little bit because I kind of went to other stuff. Fiends, Insolent Noise. I don't know if a lot of people know about Fiends. They showed up on my Spotify mix. That's kind of how I discovered a lot of bands. Spotify's been doing me well, even though a lot of people like hate on them for some dumb reason. They're out of Florida. This is their second album. I really love the crap out of their first album. This album is very good. Some of the songs in here kind of left me scratching my head, kind of some of the directions that they took. I still like their first album better, but it's good to see that they came out with a new album, and it's really good. It's metalcore-ish, but it's really hard to describe a lot of these bands because they're very different. I can't really describe them to anybody. They're kind of like Johnny Booth. I kind of put them in Johnny Booth, which is below them. We're gonna go over them. They're kind of in that same vein. They're not as pure hardcore as Johnny Booth, but they're kind of in there. Leveler. This is actually my friend's band, my friend Kyle's band, and I threw them on here because I gave this EP a spin, and it turned out really well. Like, I have this thing, like, I probably shouldn't even be sharing this, but sometimes, like, when, like, some of my friends or people that I know, let me say that, people that I know, they put out songs, you're hoping that it's good, and it like, it disappoints you sometimes. You're like, like, dude, I know you can do better than this type of thing. This album actually turned out really well. It's kind of, you're more, like your early 2000s metalcore-ish, in that kind of vein. It's sort of like that. It's really good. What is after that? Holding Absence, the Noble Art of Self-Destruction. So this is one of my only, like, kind of like non-metal albums on here. Holding Absence did a split album with Alpha Wolf, and I really liked those songs, so I kind of dove into them and started following them on Spotify, and this popped up. They're kind of like hard rock-ish, sort of, but not at the same time. Like soft pop punk, if you kind of want to call that. I'm probably butchering these genres, but they're really good. They have like a lot of softer-ish songs on there, and it's really good. So if you're tired of like listening to certain stuff and you want to chill out, this is a good album for that. Orbit Culture Descent, a EP that they recently came out with. Wait, no, I lied. This is an album. They're kind of insane, right? So they came out with a full album. Oh, I love Orbit Culture. They're great. They're kind of like, they kind of remind me of Soilwork a little bit. They kind of have that type of vibe to them, kind of like that Swedish vibe to them. So they came out with a Descent. This album is good. And they also just came out with an EP. And the EP is good. So they came out with like 2 things in 1 year, which is absolutely insane. This is a very good album. The Zenith Passage, Datalism. So this is the first tech death album that shows up on here. Everyone loves this album. I have not seen any one person like shit on this album. This album is fantastic. It's on Nail the Mix this month, one of the songs that they're doing. So if you like tech death, or like if you like Archspire ish type stuff, this is right there. This album is it's a classic. So Polaris Fatalism. This album is very interesting because Ryan, the guitarist in Polaris, died right before this album came out. That kind of had Brian's death. It was kind of overshadowing everything for this album. I listened to the singles and I really liked the singles. This is not their best album, but it's good. Some of the songs on here were very buttcore-ish, meaning like made to get Octane radio play, sort of. But listening to the album, for some reason, I just got the feeling that like they had a hard time making it, and it was kind of like a miracle it even came out. And they're from Australia, and my man Lance Perk, I think that's how you say his last name. He's like a really good like producer. He does Alpha Wolf, like pretty much all of the great Australian metalcore bands he does. He did this album. Production on it was great. Ryan dying was really sad because I've been following that dude like forever when he was doing New Groove covers when he was like 15. He joined this band when he was young. I think he joined when he was like 16 or 17. So he was in it for like 10 years before he died. He was like 27, 28 when he died. And it was really sad because it's like you never want to see someone that young die to begin with. And then when it's someone who you've like followed, it's all very tragic. My synopsis on this album is that it's good. Some parts could have been better. And I wish Ryan really wouldn't have died. That's kind of like my synopsis for it. Because we could have, had more albums on it. But this is like his final album. The band they're touring. They are going on. It's kind of like, I guess, Ryan's goodbye album, I guess you could call it. Like, so my feelings about it are kind of weird. Because his death is always going to be tied to this album, no matter what happens. Moving on. Sam's my friend. I'm going to butcher his last name. Mordian. I think that's how you say his last name. Sam's my friend. He's actually the touring guitarist for Fallujah, and this is his solo album. It's really good. So if you like, it's instrumental. I'm pretty sure there's no vocals on there. So if you like Fallujah and you like stuff like that, check out Sam's album. It's really good. I like to always put all of my friends' albums on my top albums, whether I like really like them or not, because I like want to support them, because I find so many people in the music scene in general, like they don't support their friends enough. Like if my friend comes out with a video, I like it, I comment on it. Like I just wish that more people would like interact with their friends and the stuff that they do, because if we all did it, it would be like a circle of raising everybody up. And it just really sucks that a lot of times you'll have infighting and people like don't support their friends. It's like if everyone supported everybody, we'd all be supported and things would be a lot better. Anyway, that's my small little rant. Johnny Booth, I talked about them earlier. Moments Elsewhere. These guys are great. They're from New York. They're metalcore, but they're kind of have a little bit more hardcore bloodline in them. This album is not as good as their first album to me personally, but their last album, excuse me. It's not as good as their last album, but it is really good. The opening track 2040 is insane. It slams. And they also have like a laid back song on here too. When I mean laid back, like there's no real screams in it. Fiends and Johnny Booth need more love altogether. Moving right along, this album was actually produced by Mr. Adam D from Killswitch Engage. It's Creeping Death, Boundless Domain. This album reminded me a lot of Serpentine Dominion, which that was a project that Adam did. It's kind of like his tech death project, and I wish he would come out with another album of that. This reminded me of that album a lot. Creeping Death, it's kind of older school metal, because Creeping Death's been around for like forever. So if you like that old school kind of Creeping Death type of vibe, Creeping Death kind of vibe. If you like Creeping Death, definitely go listen to it, because this is one of the more like older school albums on my list. So Left to Suffer Feral. I really like this album. Left to Suffer is really good. This is another one of those albums that kind of got lost in the fray for me. Like, I do like Left to Suffer a lot, and this album is good, just I need to give it more spins. So I kind of should have done that even before I did this list, because I'm trying to remember some of the stuff that's on it and I kind of can't. But if you like a lot of the other stuff that I've talked about, definitely go listen to this album, and it'll be right up your vein. Unearth. The Wretched Ruinous. So Unearth has popped up a lot in my Spotify Wrapped. I like Unearth a lot because they're kind of that like, I don't say sister band, but it was like them and Killswitch Engage like early on that played a lot of the metalcore that I like. And Unearth's been around like for 20 something years, I think. And which is kind of sad about them is that Killswitch like took off and went to Stratosphere, and Unearth kind of like stayed like right behind them. You know, they didn't like get as big as Killswitch, I guess you could say, which is really sad, because Unearth it's like very good. Like, if you like that early 2000s metalcore, you know who Unearth is. And this was their first album without their founding member, Mr. Ken Susi, which I was really sad when he left, but I get it. He just had to move on from the band. And this album actually is really, it's really good. Like, you can definitely tell Ken's not there. The other guitarist, Buzz, kind of had to like take the reins and stuff. It's good. It could have been a lot worse without Ken, but it is really good. So if you like the 2007 metalcore vibe, definitely go check that out. Speaking of 2000s metalcore, Born Through Fire, Purify, and Refine. This is Lambesis, the guy who tried to kill his wife a couple years ago from As I Lay Dying. He didn't kill his wife, by the way. He failed in time in jail. He got out, and he's back making music again. So this is kind of like his side project with the guy from Wolves at the Gate. That's the band he's in. The guitarist from Wolves at the Gate. If you like LA Dying, but you want some like different flavors, so this is what this album is. It's good. It's not gonna like change your life or anything, but it's good to give it a spin. Oh, does anyone remember the band Native Construct? They like came out, released one of the best prog metal albums of all time, and like disappeared. So this is the guitarist from them. Let me find out, Mr. Oh, I think that's how you say his name. Oh, Poe. I think that's how I say his name. I'm probably screwing it up. This is his solo album, and he got the singer from Native Construct to sing on a few songs on here. So if you're itching for some Native Construct stuff, check this out, because it's kind of like in that same vein. It's very good. It's that same type of flavor. Electric Callboy Techno. These guys actually changed their name. They used to be Eskimo Callboy. Word Eskimo, seen as a slur to some people, so they changed their name to Electric Callboy to make everybody happy, yay. And they're still making the same music though. This album is really good. So they had Hypa, that I think Hypa's on here. Was that on the other album? I can't remember. It was their big hit. They kind of broke through on that. So if you liked Hypa, or if you like kind of like German metalcore with synths in it, that's basically them. And they're very silly and stupid. Like, they have a song called We Got the Moves. It's good. It's silly. It's fun. It's very upbeat. It's very good. And it's actually one of the only, if you're watching, it's one of the only album arts that has a little like shake to it. Fear of Letting Go. Hollow Front. So Hollow Front is really good. I found them from Spotify mixes again. Kind of one of their metalcore. They're kind of one of the newer metalcore bands that are on here. Album is very interesting because you have like one song called Breaking Teeth, which reminds me a lot of like Throne. It's like very like cool, and it like modulates. It kind of reminds me a lot of Throne, actually, that song. You have other songs on here that are more kind of buttcore-ish. And when I mean buttcore, I mean like stuff that's going to get radio play, pretty much. So you kind of have that's on here. So once again, this is one of those albums that's not going to like change your life. or it's not gonna like make you rethink anything, but it's a good metalcore album. Pretty much how I would like to describe it. So Insomnium, NO1696. I throw this on here because I wanted some Mellow Death on here. Mellow Death kind of was thing that made metalcore be born, kind of in a way. So I kind of like to go back and like to listen to those bands. In this album is really good. So you just kind of have to prepare yourself. So like Soilwork, like older Soilwork and stuff like that, and Insomnium and Dark Tranquillity. It's kind of in that vein. I think it's kind of short. It's kind of like I think it's an EP. It's really good. If you like Mellow Death, check this out. It's The Death We Seek. So r/metalcore on Reddit was in love with this album. This and Heavener was like which everyone loved this year. This album is very good. It came out earlier in the year, and I binged the singles a lot, so I try not to kill myself listening to it. It's very good. It has tons of bangers on it. It's progressive in their older stuff, but it's very good. It's full of bangers. Their current's kind of hard to describe, but they have their own like file, and it's very good. We have Shreziers, Sex and Sax. So this band lost their singer, but they replaced them, and this album is good. It's great. Not as good as their last album. Their last album was really good with their old singer, but this one is good. It has some saxophone on it. It's kind of like it's pretty much like prog metal is the best way I can describe it. They're kind of in the same vein as Electric Callboy. I like to put them in that, so because it's like they have like fun stuff with synths and metal and stuff like that. So they're kind of in that same vein. So if you like Electric Callboy, I'm pretty sure you would like some Shreziers. Shreziers, yes, I'm saying that right. If I mispronounce anything, let me know. The Amenity Affliction, Not Without My Ghost. This I listened to the crap out of this album this year. It's so good. I just discovered these guys this year, and I like went binge a lot of their stuff. I listened to a lot of these singles. This album is good. Like I should have put it further up, but it has very few weaknesses. It has like a slow song on it, very balanced. The mix is good, vocals are good. My friend Daniel from Australia worked on the choir mixes here. It's just a little side note, but I love this album so much. Definitely go give this a listen if you like some metalcore. Speaking of Mellow Death, some In Flames, Far Gone. This album came out earlier in the year, so I kind of forgot about it a little bit. I listened to a lot of the singles, binged them before the album came out. This is one of In Flames' best albums in a very long time. It's very solid. Songs are good. It's Mellow Death to its core, but they have like Foregone Part 1 and Foregone Part 2. It's more metally. It's not so much like crying, sappy stuff that they released albums prior to that. It's this album. It's pretty good. It won. Metal Injection gave it one of their like top 4 albums of the year. I wouldn't put it that high, but it's pretty good. It's a good return to form from In Flames. Well, The World Is Quiet Here, Zon. This is actually my friend's album. My friend Isaac. We worked together for Gear Gods for a little while. This is his album. If you like Between the Buried and Me, that's like Isaac's favorite band. If you like that, kind of like what more deathcore vibes, but if you like Between the Buried and Me, go check them out because they're kind of a derivative of that, but it's its own thing. Better Lovers, God Made Me an Animal. This is actually an EP, and I think this is kind of the shocker band of the year. Better Lovers is kind of a super band, so it's a singer from Dillinger Escape Plan with the band portion of Every Time I Die, because the Keith, the singer of Every Time I Die, they teamed up with the singer from Dillinger Escape Plan, because Dillinger kind of basically called it quits a couple years ago. So they came together and formed this band, and Will Putney, who is famous for Fit for an Autopsy, he's in there. And he's in a couple other bands, but Putney did the New On Earth album, so he's a good like producer. He does like albums and stuff like that. But this is a band that he's actually playing in. He's playing guitar in this band. This is kind of like the shocker band of the world, shocker band, because a lot of people miss Dillinger, and a lot of people were sad when Every Time I Die broke up. And I know it isn't exactly both of those bands, but I've liked all their singles. They have sold out their tours. Like, I think a lot of people are just so happy they have that type of style back. And the latest single they released was very good. Like, the bass sounded great. It kind of sounded like Meshuggah. Very good. I love this. This thing is so good. If you like both of those type of bands, definitely check these out. But I'm sure you already know about it if you like those bands. Cinema Tempo. I actually found out about this band from one of my friends on Facebook. He shared it, and I went to check it out. And surprisingly, I liked it. So if you like Chakran, or the Russian band, I think I'm saying that name right. They're a Russian band, but they have like a lot of Egyptian. I think they're Russian. Yeah. They're not. Once again, guys, if I screw shit up, please let me know in the comments below. I'm pretty sure they're Russian. They play like a lot of Egyptian stuff. There's that on here, and this is kind of like harp machine, sort of like that band with Chakran. So it's like kind of like a lot of like dry stuff, but it's also gent. But this album is really good. So it's only a certain sect of people are into that type of stuff. Make sure you're into that and definitely check these guys out. This album is actually very, very good. All right, the last two, Texas in July, Without Reason. So this is an EP. So the singer, yeah, I think that's his name. The singer from Texas in July, actually in Eras. He left Texas in July a while back. I don't know if Texas in July broke up or if he just left. We in Eras. This is his band. And this is kind of one of those bands, kind of like Better Lovers, kind of like came out of nowhere, got resurrected a little bit. And this EP is really good. The drums are really freaking loud on here. I wish the drums wouldn't be as loud. Wish it'd be lowered a little bit. The production here is very good. All the songs are good. Straight ahead metalcore, pretty much. So if you like straight ahead metalcore, go check these out. These guys are good. Now, this last album, I literally found it yesterday, and I want to throw it in here. Genus Ordinis Dei. I think I'm pronouncing it right. This is Latin. It's basically like the foundation of the divine order. That's what it translates to. And Joe found this. If you like Melodeath and you like Gojira, this is for you. Now, if you're strictly into tech death and you have to have blast beats every 5 seconds, and if the guitars aren't doing sweeps, it's probably not going to be for you. But if you like Gojira, which I do, if you like Melodeath, which I also do, these guys out because it's pretty much what they are. They are a mesh, both of those bands kind of slapped into one. And it's a very good album. I only spun it like once. Did I get all the way through it? I don't think I got all the way through it, but I did spin it and I did like it, and I wanted to put it on here in case anyone wanted to see it. And that is going to be it, guys. Woo! Took a little while, but we got all the way through all of my albums of the year. And as you can see, I jump around a lot when it comes to albums. I have this app called Crab Hands, and all of the stuff that I like, it feeds it in there. So like every Friday I get like a new release and listen to that, and I jumped around a lot and I listened to a lot of cool stuff. Wrapping things up, if you found anything that I should listen to, that I missed on this list, put it in the comments down below because I'm always up for listening to new stuff. By the way, guys, thank you so much for coming and checking out the podcast, listening and watching and liking and subbing. This is only 8 episodes. Started this kind of at the end of the year on a whim. So far, it's been successful. I mean, people are listening to it and liking it, so I'm going to consider that successful. And this is probably going to be like my last podcast for the year, I think. So with New Year's coming up, I got some stuff going on, so this is probably going to be my last one of the year. I say that, but I may pop in next week and do some quick stuff if some new stuff comes out. I didn't think I'd do one this week. I thought I would just do my albums of the year, but some new stuff came out, so I was able to cover that for you guys. So I will maybe see you again this year. I don't know. This might be my last one. I'll definitely let you know for sure. I'll put it. Check my community tab. I'll definitely let you know. But guys, thank you for everyone for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I know it ran long, and it's probably my longest podcast of the year. But guys, thank you so much for checking me out. Give me some of your time. I appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.